If Cinderella's shoe fit perfectly, then why did it fall off when she ran? She had sweaty feet from dancing all night and then ran down the stairs. Chick was running in heels, I can see that happening to anyone. In the original Cinderella story, the prince spreads pitch on the stairs to trap her. Her shoe gets stuck and she takes it off to get away. Because magic users are tricksy. The reason the glass slipper in Cinderella didn't turn back to a regular slipper, or disappear, at midnight is because the fairy godmother was messing with us. Her main goal was to set Cinderella up for life, and to do that she needed a way for the prince to find her. She could easily have magicked Cinderella into the life she wanted, arbitrary midnight deadline be damned, but instead the fairy godmother decided to make the prince want her for her own qualities and to prove his love by tracking Cinderella down. To do that, she had to make sure that something was left behind, so she popped that little glass sumbitch off so the prince would have a lead to follow. We are all puppets in the hands of the fairy godmother. Because it was a perfect fit. If it were too tight, maybe it'd have stayed on. In the Finnish version, the prince slathered tar on the stairs to try to get her stuck. Woo romance. BC shoes don't encase themselves around your foot never to be taken off again. They just fit lol. Glass slippers don't breathe. Eventually, her feet got so sweaty they fell off. Heels be doin' that sometimes. The shoe was made by a fairy godmother who wanted the best for Cinderella and was willing to use magic to get it done. The shoe fell off for the same reason it didn't turn back into some peasant shoe. The fairy godmother willed it that way. Because after the dance her foot was swimming in a puddle of sweat. Turns out glass is not a very good footwear material. The other bit I found problematic in Cinderella was that when she turned up at the ball, everyone thought she was a foreign princess. When the royal party went looking for her the next day, they searched the homes within the kingdom. If she was a foreign princess, wouldn't she have left the kingdom? Because that's the fucking plot. It's also the plot that the only way for the prince to identify that woman he danced with at the ball was to try this shoe on all the women, some of whom probably wear the same size shoe. He would have married the first woman whose foot was the same size, rather than chat a bit to see if they clicked like they did at the ball, or just look at her face or something. Because the shoe was straight, not curved. How do I know? The story happened before 1818. Why does 1818 matter? 1818 is when the first known pair of shoes with designated left and right feet were produced in Philadelphia. Prior to 1818, shoes were all straight out and interchangeable between the feet. It took the industrialization of shoes to this to become the norm. If you understand shoes were different in the period, the story makes perfect sense. Rumor grew of a shadow in the east, whispers of a nameless fear, and the shoe of Cinderella perceived its time had come. It abandoned Cinderella, but then something happened that the shoe did not intend. It was picked up by the most unlikely creature imaginable, a prince, Prince Charming, of the castle. It was a slipper. We're all familiar with slippers, right? Perfect fit is a relative term. Hell, fit is a relative term for slippers. They create a space in which part of a foot can occupy, in much the same way as part of a foot can occupy a bucket or an empty Kleenex box. We're not exactly talking about orthopedic masterpieces here. Just saw a guy get punched so hard the other day his shoes literally came off. Damnedest thing to watch. Same with car crashes. Shoes come off easy even when they fit well. Because they're glass slippers, so they slip on and off of the feet. No laces or other means to hold them on securely for vigorous activity. Slippers are meant for regular walking, mild dancing, idly sitting, and the like. Never for running. Plus, they're glass, so the traction would be horrible on any hard surface. In Ashpoodle, the Grimm's fairy tale it's based on, the prince's ball takes place over 3 nights. By the 3rd night the prince is so enamored by the elusive Ashpoodle he orders the stairway be covered in sticky pitch before she has a chance to leave, ensnaring the golden slipper. The relevant passage, when evening came Ashpoodle wanted to leave, and the prince tried to escort her, but she ran away from him so quickly that he could not follow her. The prince, however, had set a trap. He had had the entire stairway smeared with pitch. When she ran down the stairs, Her left slipper stuck in the pitch. The prince picked it up. It was small and dainty, and of pure gold. I had this same question when I was about 4. Here is my big sister's explanation, or at least what I can remember of it. A decade and a half later, the fairy godmother gave her magic shoes that would shrink or expand as needed so that they would only fit Cinderella's feet, and they fell off because they're magic and knew that the prince needed some way to find her. Now shut it and let me finish the story, you little twit. In short, magical MacGuffin shoes. Because she has very sweaty feet. The stepmother prevented Cinderella trying on the shoes, not because she would be the one to marry the prince, it was because her feet smelled so bad, it would have chased the prince away. Because glass shoes are a freaking stupid idea. Even assuming they're magically unbreakable. Glass has almost no flex, compared to cloth or leather, so even a perfectly fitted glass shoe would need to be looser than a normal shoe or you'd never be able to get it on. Sorry, but everyone is giving the wrong answers. It slipped off because it was glass and her feet were very sweaty from a long night of dancing. When your feet get that sweaty, glass slips off very easily. Little Miss Cinderella clearly has hyperhidrosis that Disney kept a secret for her. I read a version of Cinderella where her physical appearance changed as well, because she was not very attractive. The slipper doesn't fit the next day because her feet are too big. She basically tells the prince she understands that she isn't what he expected and she's not upset he isn't going to marry her, but that she enjoyed the magical night they had together. She says enough details about the night before that he believes her, and he yells her the slipper not fitting isn't a big deal and he will just have one made that fits her. Can you imagine running in glass slippers? They'd have to be somewhat slick in their own right, and then you add sweat from all that dancing at the ball, and the real question becomes, why didn't they both fall off? High heels are meant to look pretty, not go sprinting around town in. They really aren't held on your foot like most footwear, your foot is kind of just sitting down in them. In normal life, Cinderella has abnormally small feet. When her fairy godmother gives her the ball gown and carriage, she also increases the size of her feet to a more normal size. At midnight, everything changes back, including her feet. So her now once again minuscule feet come straight out of the slipper and there you go. During the dance with the prince, the fairy godmother's magic prevented Cinderella from getting sweaty. After midnight the spell was broken, so Cinderella was just smothered in sweat, making the glass slipper slippery and fall off. Because she yelled move it. Ay, and ki-ed while she did a flying side thrust kick. The slipper flew off. Also, they didn't call it a slipper for no reason, it just slipped off. You're not giving Cinderella enough credit here. The shoe was the best she could do at the time, in terms of leaving a trail of breadcrumbs, but man did it work out beautifully. Most people actually don't know this, but Cinderella was a teacher of a long line of geniuses, i.e. every smart person, whether from anime or real life, can be traced back to her. There was actually no fairy godmother. She invented nanotechnology when she was 3 and created a Facinorous artificially intelligent retrospective Jaeger, or fairy for short, which she then dubbed fairy godmother to hide the truth. Used her 20 million plus IQ to set into motion a plan so well thought out that she ended up conquering a British monarchy, while attaining immortality and time travel, to teach every smart person to ever have been born. She still exists today, and her followers associate themselves with an eye of knowledge from the Egyptian hieroglyphics. The Illuminati are her servants, and her ultimate goal is to fight away Earth's impending doom. How else do you think we survived this far? Because her feet were probably sweaty AF inside a glass shoe and it popped right off. I'm surprised it stayed on her foot as long as it did.